Good evening, guys, and happy Thursday to all of your sunshiny faces. You guys probably can't tell right now, but my window's closed because it is cold now. Like, honestly, it's still supposed to be like 60s. Like, I think I might open my window tomorrow during the day. And on top of that too, I was telling you guys, I was so nervous. I was like, I'm so scared. But like, it was so hot yesterday, like 80 something degrees or whatever. And I was like, I'm so scared that if I close my window, it's gonna be so hot in my room and I'm not gonna be able to sleep. And then today, it cooled down. It was like, again, 60s or so. And so, you know, I closed my window now because like tonight's now it's supposed to get colder. Like again, probably maybe down to like the 50s or so. And so I was like, well, I'll close my window and then maybe tomorrow during the day open it again. Not that it's because it's hot and I need to have it open, but oh my goodness, guys, it's so nice to wake up and hear the birds like right outside, because like there's bushes like right in between ours and our neighbor's driveway. And so like to hear the birds in the morning, like I think honestly that's what woke me up the last 2 days. Like today I feel like I woke up because of the you know, from like the birds and everything like that, and from hearing them and everything. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's so refreshing to like have that. So yeah, that's why I honestly think that I woke up today. I woke up at 8 o'clock, which was pretty good. And I feel like that was definitely because like my window was open, because I noticed that too the last like 2 days that I have my window open. I've woken up somewhat early. Like yesterday I did, but I fell sort of back asleep. Today I woke up and stayed awake, so I was like, that's good. Maybe I can do the same thing tomorrow, but like I said, it's too cold to have it open today. So the thing is though, is that they're way louder obviously with my window open, but I can hear them in the mornings a lot of times. And so just like the birds in the general neighborhood, I guess, because then again too, we have that bird sort of sanctuary feeder station that we built in the backyard, and then front yard we have bird feeders as well, so there's all kinds of places for them to go around here. But again, you know, they also, like I said, congregate sort of in that back area with the bushes, and then also too in the front yard we've got a couple bushes too, but we don't have any trees, and our neighbors don't have any trees in their backyard really either. I think honestly between us and our neighbors that live next to us, I think there's only one tree, and it's out on the parkway out in front of their house. So there's like really not any trees like on this side of like, you know, our house really, because then we don't have any at all on our property. It's our neighbors to that side that do have a couple. But I was trying to think, they used to have a really big one in their backyard. It actually fell on their deck one really bad winter storm, or summer like storm, sort of, I guess. It was like a rain thunderstorm sort of, and it fell on their garage or on their porch, and like they had just redid their deck I think like earlier that spring, and it fell on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that has to be such a pain. And I think they didn't get it finished until like the following year. So I was like, you know, like you get it done and you're probably thinking like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so nice, like, you know, we got this new deck now to, you know, hang out on and everything like that this summer, and then a tree falls on it and you can't even really use it. Like maybe they finished it up, but I remember it took a while. But yeah, I think it was either like that year or maybe the year before that. They had just had it like redone or something like that. And like I said, there was a tree that ended up falling back there, and like I think even on part of like the back of their actual house roof too. So yeah, but we had, let's see, a couple trees. One tree we had out in our front yard, and if you guys ever see our front flower bed, you can tell that there used to be a tree there, because there's actually a like sort of like the way my mom did the garden bed, like, you know, there was a tree there at one point, and we had a bush in front of the tree, and then the tree came out and we have the bush there still, and then we have a smaller bush now where the tree used to be, but it's not even as big, and so you don't even notice it from like the street compared to the bigger bush that's out in front. But you can tell, like, because of the way that there's a flower bed sort of just in the middle of our lawn, it was because there used to be a tree there. Now it looks kind of weird we just sort of have a random garden with like a bush and some flowers in it that doesn't look like it really fits just in the random middle of our yard. And then we had one in the backyard that when we moved in was dead. That actually fell on our garage. And then we also had another one that was actually growing like sort of on our property line between ours and our neighbors. And I think the city came and took it out because it was too close, like at one point, like way further down the line, which my dad wanted to get rid of it anyway because it was actually ruining our old fence at the time. And so we were going to get rid of it, but at some point I think the city ended up coming and they took it out because it was like interfering with like the lines, like because of the electric and telephone lines, all that kind of stuff is back behind our house. So I think that's why they ended up taking it out. But the thing was that they just took it out and we were responsible for getting rid of all of the wood, which we didn't get the stumps taken out until 2 summers ago, I think, when we ended up getting the new fence in. And so we got rid of the wood, but the stump was still there until we could finally get somebody out to take care of it. I think also at the same time we had 2 trees removed. One was in our backyard that was actually growing completely crooked. The thing was like growing like completely like almost horizontally at like one part, but it like sort of like was on an angle, and then at one point like there were branches that just started going this way. I was like, why is their tree growing like that? And since it was leaning actually in towards our house, my dad was also concerned again like that it would come out and wind up falling on our house, which it wasn't that big of a tree though at the time, but it just, like I said, grew completely crooked. And then there was another one that was in our front yard right next to our front door, like sort of near the front door, but we got that one taken out because it was losing a ton of like branches, like not even branches, but like full on like limbs of the tree. And it was all weird too, like at one point there was only like 1 or 2 like random sort of like limbs coming out of the tree still. So my dad was like, again, like, okay, it's sort of an eyesore. It wasn't dead, but like it just, pieces kept falling off of it. So like I said, eventually my dad was also wanted to get that one taken out. So we got that one and I think the crooked one taken out at the same time. But again, never got the stumps taken care of until, like I said, eventually, like I said, it was probably 2 summers ago, we finally got the 3 stumps taken out at the same time. The front one, the one like I said that was in the front yard, I didn't even tell you guys what happened to that one. It was actually the only tree on our property that we had planned on keeping because, like I said, there was a dead one, the crooked one, the one that was growing on our fence, you know, like, and if we did wind up taking down the fence, which we did, and wound up putting up a new one, we would end up again having some type of problem. So that's why we ended up deciding to get rid of that tree. And like I said too, it was like right on the property line. It was sort of a really dumb place right for it. Like it was almost in between, it was on our property but really almost on our neighbors also, because it was like right on the fence line of where it was. It was actually like we almost, I don't even know if we had the fence, I think it just barely went all the way through. Probably when they first put the fence in, the tree was really small, but then by the time we moved in, it was like starting to like actually push on the fence. So like I said, that's why we decided to get rid of that one. And then the one that lost all the branches, one I think a huge big one fell off in like one storm, and then after that it lost a couple of other ones, and that's when we decided to take it out. The front one, the big one in the front yard, was the only tree we were going to take, and when Matthew was going to keep. When Matthew was little, and like I was little too, but there was like a really bad, like I said, you know, thunderstorm and really strong winds, and so the tree actually had started to come up out of the ground and started leaning, luckily away from our house. But at the time, I had no clue. Matthew just kept freaking out, and he's like, the ground's moving, the ground's moving. And my mom's like, what are you even talking about? Like, the ground is not moving. She's like, you know, get away from the windows, but like the ground is not moving. And eventually, once the storm was over, Matthew's like, no, like, and he actually saw when the tree like was like sort of like leaning, and actually saw it like almost come up out of the ground. Like I said, luckily it didn't all come out all the way, but by that point we had to take it out. because like I said, it was actually started leaning and had started coming out of the ground. But when I first saw it, I didn't even notice that like it was, you know, like there, you know, or like pulled up out of the ground. And we actually still have raised, like it's raised a little bit there, and you can sort of tell compared to like where the rest of the ground is. And it's around our, again, the flower bed that was there. And so that's what Matthew actually saw, was the part that was just outside of the flower bed was actually pulled up, like out of the ground. The roots were from underneath, and so that's why he was like freaking out. And like I said, like that whole entire day too, my mom didn't even notice it, but he started pointing it out. He's like, no, I saw the ground moved. And like I said, he was like little, like maybe 2-3 years old. My mom was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, Matthew, you know. And like I think that you know, she was just thinking like he was really scared from like the thunderstorm or something like that, that he was just really freaked out. But when he started saying like the ground's moving, she was like, what are you talking about? Like the ground's not moving. Like it was a bad thunderstorm, there was lots of wind, you know, trees and stuff like that, you know, blowing all over, and branches and all that kind of stuff, but she couldn't figure it out until, again, like it was probably when my dad came home or something like that, that finally like I think, I mean, the storm had calmed down and everything like that, and we went outside and my mom was like, oh my gosh, you are right, like it did come up out of the ground, sort of. And not enough, but like enough that it sort of created this like mound, but the roots never actually came out of the ground. So we got that one actually taken out. So like I said, that was probably the first tree that we got taken out, but the one tree that we actually wanted to keep out of all the other ones on our property. So we used to have a lot of trees, and we have absolutely none left anymore. And that is the story of how we ended up with no trees now. And like I said too, there isn't a great spot really for us to have any trees. Like our lot is not really that big, and you know, like by the time a tree is finally grown now, it's not, you know, will probably be out of this house by that time, because it's gonna be like 20-30 years by the time, you know, it's a full mature tree. You know, I don't know that we're gonna be here for that long. So it's sort of like, is it really, is there a point to it? And I know some trees can sort of grow a little bit faster, like, and I wouldn't mind one that's like more like a birch tree or something like that, but at the same time too, we don't really know a good spot of where to put it, because like we put it on the middle of our yard, and that seems kind of dumb because it sort of takes away from like the yard space. We can't put it all the way in the back, because again, we'll wind up having the same problem we did before with the power lines and all that kind of stuff, or really anything too close to the fence line or property line. And again, now the spot where we had the tree in the front of the house, which sort of took away a little bit from the curb appeal, because the house was completely hidden and you couldn't see it at all. But like I said, where that was, you know, that tree in the front yard, we have 2 bushes. And then we used to have one on the parkway. I forgot about this one, guys. One on the parkway in between ours and our neighbor's driveway at the end, you know, so it's like down on the, what do they call that? The apron? Is that right? I don't think so. Something like that. Like the end of the driveway, the little lip at the end of the driveway, sort of. And the tree was there, but it actually ended up, which is the problem that we are having now, and we have to get a new driveway actually almost completely put in at the end, because you can't even fully, we drive actually in the grass at the end of the driveway, because the tree that was there actually was pushed so far into our driveway that we lost like the end of the driveway space. And you guys know, like normally at the end of your driveway it gets bigger. Ours actually gets smaller the closer to the street you get. So our like normal driveway is like normal length, I guess, and then at the very end it actually gets smaller. So it's harder to actually pull out the closer you get to the street, which is obviously like the problem, because so you're not supposed to have that. It's supposed to get easier. And so, like I said, we are actually having that done, I believe, this summer. That is the big sort of project this year, is that we're getting the new driveway done, and all put in and everything like that, like blacktopped. Like it was blacktopped, we never got it like sealed ever since we've lived here. But like I said, the big problem was at the foot of the driveway. But we like called the city. they didn't end up taking care of it like right away. And then finally, like my dad was like, well, I'm gonna pay for somebody to do it, but it was like the city's jurisdiction to take care of it, but we have a problem with our driveway because there's a tree that really shouldn't be there. And it was huge too. Like you'd wind up hitting, like I remember my grandma several times ended up hitting her mirror on the actual the tree when it was there too. It's just a huge pain in a really dumb spot. Like you put a tree right in between two driveways at the end of the driveway. And then I think again too, we had maybe one small one on the parkway as well, but we ended up, I don't know, the city took that one out too. Like, and it was like a baby tree. And there was actually 2 or 3, I think, there, and they've taken all of them out. Like new ones that they've put in since we've lived here, and they've all been taken out again, like probably disease or something like that. But because of that, they're like, oh, let us know what kind of tree you guys want and we'll put it in, you know, just because, yeah, I don't know, that's what the city does. Sort of thing. And so, but I don't know, we tried to get a hold of them to like tell them, and that never ended up happening. I don't know. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it though, I know you were like, they sent a thing in the mail saying like, oh, pick out the type of tree you want, and I thought my mom sent it back in, but then they obviously, there's still no tree there. So she was gonna call, I think last summer, and ended up not calling, but like we want something. You know, we have absolutely nothing, no trees, no anything. But yeah, like I said, I don't know why they've taken out all the trees on the parkway. They also did that too to our neighbor's house across the street too, this really nice big tree, and they took that one out and they put a new tree in. So like that's why we're like, we did the same thing that they did, but they got theirs in. So that's why my mom was like, once they got theirs in last year, she was like, maybe we should figure out what was going on, because maybe they didn't get it or whatever. And so, you know, but like we're responsible for taking care of it, but it's their, you know, property, I guess. Like our property doesn't extend to it, but we're responsible for taking care of it, for those of you that I guess don't really know parkway stuff, because I guess our old house had a parkway too. But this was sort of news to me. I didn't really know. Like when I was younger, I didn't really understand. Like my parents were like, no, that's like the, you know, the city's property. I was like, okay, then why do we live on it? And they're like, well, we own, you know, the property on the house is on up to the sidewalk, and then after that we don't. I think I told you guys too, we also had a problem with our sidewalk where when we actually ended up we used the edger, and like was doing the grass along on like the front sidewalk. We realized there's a huge chunk that was covered by grass for forever that actually was missing from that whole spot where the grass was covering it, up until we did it, and we were like, oh, we probably need to get them out to fix this too, because it's also the same thing too, like the sidewalk actually gets smaller. We didn't realize how big the sidewalk was until we used our edger this last summer, and then realized also too that there's a huge chunk of sidewalk missing. So those were the 2 things I think that we needed to get taken care of, was the tree, and then also to figure out what was going on with the front sidewalk that needed to be taken care of. Like I also don't know, I would assume that that's not, you know, that's like public works sort of, that's not our responsibility to fix that, and we didn't even know that it was there. But you know, like sidewalk stuff is sort of like the street as well, and the same with, like I said, having that, you know, we just had to pick out what type of tree we wanted out on the parkway, and yeah, we never ended up getting that. So I think maybe I should let my mom know about that too, now that I remembered. Because there's all these spring things that are going on now that I'm like remembering too, like, oh yeah, we have to do that. So I need to still clear out all of the garden beds from all of the dead stuff from last year, and also all of the weeds so far that have already started this year. So anyways guys, I will see you all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you'd subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye guys.